All right, so yesterday, thank you for those of you that showed up. Hopefully, I didn't bore you too much. I'm talking about art, also the background of the Renaissance, um, and the video that we actually I was asking you guys to watch for your work. For those of you that were not um, available yesterday, we basically just talked about these two slides here. Um, 3 slides. Sorry, we talked about what Renaissance means. Basically, rebirth. It was a thought process of going back to classical beliefs of like Rome and Greek. We thought about how they thought about how the humans humans fit within in the realm of the world, and how religion fit within the realm of human life, and how those two could basically coexist instead of butt heads. So it was kind of a, we go from a different thinking of the Dark Ages to the Renaissance. We also discussed a little bit this picture. Now, I'm not going to go into it like we did yesterday. I just want for those of you to see it because we need to move forward. Um, Take a look at this picture. You can see what we pointed out here um, yesterday while we were on Google Meet was this right here in the middle. You have Jesus in the middle of this picture, and you can tell it's him because of, one, the way he's dressed, and two, the glowing halo that's around his head. Um, what this is a picture of great scientists, because this guy, let me erase this guy right here is the question, or the answer to the question that I asked you on who John Green thought was the greatest mind during the Renaissance. I have my view. I think it's Da Vinci, but he says he thinks it's Nicholas Copernicus. So that is actually Nicholas Copernicus right there. All right. So what we get out of this is basically the belief that um, you have religion and you have science, science and science. Okay. But you really think about it, religion still center, still the focal point. And science is all around religion when you're looking at this picture. You can also see, which is interesting, the person that painted this, I don't know off the top of my head who painted it, but take a look at the columns that you have. Okay, you have Corinthian style columns here, you have Corinthian style columns here. You're looking at more of a Doric style here, maybe an Ionic style in some of them. But you're almost seeing the progression of history of being Greek, Rome, Rome. Okay, as you're moving forward in history. So this person that actually put this together, this painted this picture, um, was showing the progression of history. The other thing that we talked about really quick was this thing for all of you that are artists, perspective. If you look at it, as you move back in this picture, the buildings you can see they fade a little bit and they almost get smaller. You know that this building here, right here, is a lot taller than what it is showing within this picture, um, because it is in the background of the picture, and it is the same height, if not maybe a little bit smaller than these buildings here. Okay, those towers, those columns. But you know it's taller because what happens here is everything. Now, I'm not an artist. I don't like art, but I can see this type of stuff. We look back at Jesus being the focal point of this picture. Everything is working off of him. Okay, uh, people here in the front are bigger than him, which doesn't mean that he's not important in this picture, because his importance shows as him being the center of the picture here. So it's interesting to look at the perspective aspects, and something that we'll see when we as we move through the different styles of art, um, when we review, and then we get to the Renaissance. Okay. So we also discussed quickly about how bankers supported the growth of the arts and learning. Most people were still poor during this time. They didn't have the money to have their picture painted, or or have their kids go to wealthy schools, or even school in itself. School at this point in time was just basically for the wealthy. Um, but what we really need to focus in on this slide is humanism and humanists. Okay, humanism is the philosophy that comes within the Renaissance. Humanists are the people that believe in humanism. And what we're really looking at is that humanists right here believed in the worth and potential of all individuals. Each individual has some type of potential. And what they wanted to do was balance religious faith with a belief in the power of the mind. So they're looking at something as being, again, religion and humanism. They want to, let's erase this. They want to find a way that these two can work here in the middle for humankind. So let's put humankind here in the middle. Okay, so that's what you're really looking at between these two, because you really look at religion as being the Dark Ages, um, and you look at humanism as being the Renaissance. Okay, so interesting view point on how the world and life during this time was trying to figure out what what life was bringing them, and how they could actually bring together these two aspects of life that really played major roles in how the world was moving at that point in time. So let's look at this again. Okay, so this is classical art. All right, when we look at this, so this is classical. One of the things that we look at, and we talked about this yesterday, is the face. Okay, um, the face for classical art is showing no emotion. So no emotions. Okay, classical art, no emotions. All right, but again, look at the body. Okay, body shows muscular movement, definition. It shows them in an athletic position. It shows them doing, something that is of athletic importance, or of movement. They were interested in the body, and yes, okay, we look at it. They were often depicted as being naked. Okay, we talked about this before in class. All right, so let's look really quick at the um, the classical art characteristics. So it lasted for a long time, and basically the purpose was to show the importance of ordinary people and civic leaders, as well as their gods and goddesses. Remember, polytheism was the main aspect. Okay, they were poly, not mono. Okay, poly. All right. Artists valued balance and harmony within their work. Figures were lifelike, but often idealized or more perfect than in real life. So what I was liking this to was kind of these the magazines that we see when you go, well, when you're allowed to go to the store, where some of these people that are on these magazines are very they're close to being as perfect as possible. Okay, muscles, perfect hair, eyes, lips, everything you look at as being a human being. But when we really look at what real life is, it's not that. But classical art was really looking at idealizing someone more perfect than what real life is. Again, nude or draped in togas or robes, and their bodies often looked active and emotion was believable. So they weren't really looking at that facial expression, but they were looking at the fact that what that person was doing is a believable movement. Um, their faces were calm without emotion. Their scenes showed either heroic figures or real people doing tasks from daily life. Okay, in these paintings, there was a little background or sense of perspective. And here's your definition for perspective. Perspective is a visual technique used to make people and objects look closer or further away, and to not give realistic and to give realistic depth to a scene. So what I was telling the kids yesterday that were on there, if I take this and make a dot here, okay, now I don't have a ruler or anything, and I'm drawing on my touchpad. You can take that dot and you can use that as your perspective dot. So I can draw a line that comes off of it, another line that comes off of it, and I can connect those two lines. Okay, now I can make this 3D by doing something like that, or 2D, we'll put it that way, and then you can draw another building that does this. Okay, and as you can see, if you keep going, you're looking at this as being your focal point, like that of Jesus, and everything builds off of that focal point. So it was something fun that I remember learning in art class. One of the only things I remember learning in art class. So that's classical art. When we look at the next one, look at the difference. Okay, depicting religion more than anything. Okay, how about faces? Okay, no emotion again. I think the guy here, right here, he looks like just totally angry at what's going on. Remember the hand? How I was telling you guys that Jesus, when painted during the Middle Ages, so this is Middle Age artwork, was depicted as having his hand up, almost like blessing what was happening. You also can see their colors are not as vibrant as what we'll see when we get to Renaissance art. Um, the texture of it's different. They do have pretty good um, like the like being able to see like the robes and the wrinkling of the robes and everything. Um, but it's not the same as being what we'll see with Renaissance art. You can see the difference between this and classical art even also. Um, so that's what medieval art looked like, and you guys have seen this a couple of times, like some types of medieval art. So here are the characteristics. Medieval period lasted from about 500 to about 1300 CE, focused on teaching religion to people who could not read or write. Most art was religious, showed Jesus, saints, people from the Bible. Important figures and paintings were shown larger than others around them. Okay, Jesus, maybe if we go back to this, he's not larger than him, but where is he located? He's in the middle of the painting. Okay, so you see that importance of Jesus in the middle of this painting. Um, Figures often look stiff. You can definitely see that from that painting. They had a little sense of movement. Figures were fully dressed in stiff-looking clothing. Faces were serious. They showed little expression. Painted figures looked two-dimensional or flat. Paint colors were bright, but their backgrounds were mostly one color, often blue or gold. So let's look back at here. What you got? Your background, blue all around and gold behind their heads. Okay, so that's what you're looking at for Renaissance art. Now, last one we'll look at today, and I'll stop bothering you, is this. Okay, here is your Renaissance art. Sorry, we looked at medieval art there first. I don't want to confuse you. Now we're on to Renaissance art. Now, okay, you look at this picture, you have perspective, big time. Look at how the hall shrinks as we go back. Okay, you've got this perspective aspect. Okay, um, the people who are in this hall, they're scientific thinkers. Okay, you have people like Aristotle, Plato, Copernicus. Look what you have here, a globe. All right, you have this guy pondering. You have this guy looks like he's totally lost on what's going on. He is teaching. You see an education aspect of this with science, and you see even different backgrounds of science within this picture. And this picture, if I remember correctly, is entitled the Halls of Science. Um, so you can see where they're rethinking this aspect of religion um, in the Renaissance, but they're also uh, painting things with very detailed aspects. Um, and their emotions, even on the faces of these smaller people that are in this, you can feel the emotion. This guy is definitely have an emotion on his face. This guy has an emotion on his face. This guy right here has an emotion on his face. So you're really seeing what is going on with these people and feeling more as you're like being a part of this painting instead of um, being an outsider of the painting. So last thing, real quick, Renaissance art characteristics. Only lasted 300 years, focused on showing the importance of people and nature, not just religious ideas, while artists also began using new techniques. Artists showed religious and non-religion scenes, so they were looking at both. Art reflected a great interest in nature. Start seeing a lot more birds and people out in nature again. Figures look lifelike. They were three-dimensional. They reflected increasing knowledge of anatomy. People were looking more at a human being and how they were moving and the movement of their muscles and joints and so forth and so on. Figures were shown in action a lot of times. Again, they go back to that nude aspect. But a lot of times, even with that painting that we just saw, they were clothed mostly. Scenes showed real people doing everyday tasks. Their faces expressed what that person was feeling. Colors were shown responding to light instead of just being bright or dull. They actually were using the sun as an aspect of, hey, it's coming through. If you go back to this, um, you can see that these people here in the middle are illuminated more, because more than likely you have this up here as windows, and then probably even up here farther you're having light rays come down on these people, illuminating them more. So you're showing this aspect, um, and then finally we see these paintings were often symmetrical or balanced, with the right and left sides having identical elements, and full background shows perspective, adding depth. So the last thing, you look at this picture, it's pretty balanced. If you put a line down the middle here, you feel like you're seeing the same amount of people on the left or the right. Yeah, these people are closer to the middle line, but you have pretty much the same amount of people there as you do here. So you're definitely, and then you look up here, you see up here also, okay, neither of these two guys here in the middle are taking up the exact middle of this painting. They're splitting it in half. So, interesting way to look at things with Renaissance art. That's all I have for you today. Tomorrow, uh, we're going to end up doing this journal entry. What are the differences between all three styles of art and sculpting? Be specific when you write this part, and what style is your favorite out of the three, and tell me why you chose it. Just pick one. Enlighten me, and tell me why. Why do you think the Dark Ages is better than the Renaissance, or classical is better than the other two? All right. So that's all I have for you guys today. Tomorrow we will definitely be looking at this journal entry. So have a good rest of your day.